Welcome to another edition of Deloitte Presents the Economic Times Leadership Dialogues, where industry leaders gathered at Deloitte's Center for Innovation and Technology in Bangalore to explore cutting-edge trends in AI, automation and digital business transformation. Let's dive into the insights shaping the future of business.
Welcome to this wonderful gathering at the Deloitte Center for Innovation and Technology, where the Economic Times Leadership Dialogue is taking place. And a great time, I think, to discuss technology, which is really the driver of everyday life, so to speak. We could begin by getting each of you to sort of weigh in on this aspect. How much have you experienced an increase in technology adoption, both in your businesses and as consumers? So if we could begin with you.
See, we are seeing increasingly ushering in of technology in every aspect of business. So, I represent a manufacturing company. We manufacture apparel for exports. Most of the large apparel retailers are our customers. And, orders today, for instance, are being placed across different manufacturers electronically. Forecasting is done electronically. Styles, the detailing, the all of that happens electronically. Our raw materials we are sending it electronic. So there's a whole information flow. Part of the business is all electronic nowadays, right? And it's increasingly so. And today our systems are fairly intertwined with our customer systems as well as with our supplier ecosystem. So things are moving at a much faster pace. Even the manufacturing process itself, there is a lot of automation that is coming in, and above all, there is also a lot of digitalization, right? So we, for instance, manage everything from our warehouse to raw material warehouse to finished goods. Every SKU is tracked internally. So technology has crept in everywhere, and that's how the world is leading.
So moving on to the consumer, really, from that perspective, they would have been accustomed perhaps to shopping remotely during the pandemic for sure. But now that we are back again in the stores, what is the difference that you're seeing in behavior? How much is tech playing a part in this?
I still recall many brands, many organizations set up a separate business team, right? They called it a new age team, right, to help drive the digital business. But what we're realizing in the last 3-4 years is it's not a different customer, it's the same customer. The same customer is shopping in the store, the same customer is also shopping online. So it becomes extremely critical for you as a brand to see the entire journey for the customer. So right from what the customer is buying in the store, who's the customer, demographics, psychographics, what is she shopping? How is my order management system at the back end and my warehouse management system, the OMS and WMS, how is that working in synchronization? And finally, when the customer goes to the billing counter, how is the POS machine working, the point of sale, and what is she buying? Is she paying through credit card or cash or any other digital coupon, etc.? And finally, when the customer checks out, whether it's a physical store or even in my digital website, what is the kind of net promoter score she or he is giving us, right? So that NPS is actually an indication of how well we have delivered the brand promise to the customer in that journey. So it's becoming extremely important for us to see the whole customer journey, not just in one channel, but across the channel. The second is, while it's important to see the customer journey, my product journey is also important. So how is my inventory? Am I able to give one single view of the inventory to the customer, whether it's online or offline? And what we're also noticing of late in the last 2-3 years is, while e-commerce is very big and shopping is happening in e-commerce, a lot of consumers are also using that as the first port of discovery. And then the shopping happens in the store. So it's becoming extremely important for us to manage the two.
Would you say business is driving technology or technology is driving business?
That's very interesting, Archana. I think it's very intertwined and very symbiotic. One can argue both ways. Let's take technology driving business. If there was no cloud computing, we wouldn't be able to work remotely. We don't have to buy hard disk. All the data can be accessed from anywhere. If you see automation or artificial intelligence, development of that led to a lot of personalization and customer experience. In this case, technology developed first and business capitalized and used it. Look at the other way. Business also drives technology. Business identifies gaps and needs on which we all work, and then technology is developed. For example, in healthcare, the advent of so much technology in healthcare, in finding disease, root cause, right, that comes from the need. The need for the smartphone on which we all live itself comes from the need that today I want content on the move. I want to see Netflix or whatever OTT or YouTube when I'm on the move. But I also want to do commerce. I can access my bank account, I can do commerce, and I want to be entertained also, and I can do shopping. So one can argue both ways. I think they go hand in hand. You can't separate the two.
On that note, I'd like to, ask you, because yours is a technology business that would have been B2B in format, right? And what we are really now marveling, in a sense, is the adoption of technology at the consumer end, which is really driving a lot of business as well. How does it look from your perspective?
A large part of our business is automation, which is in assembly and testing automation. There's a lot of change that we are also seeing in the domestic market.
Correct.
What used to be a large, at least 50-60% export, we are seeing that movement towards 50-60% domestic, especially the automation sector. So there is a growth of manufacturing quite clearly. But within manufacturing, adoption of automation, we are seeing a good trend in terms of the degree of automation. Earlier, the most automated lines that we used to do for assembly used to be exported, which means, the scale of those automations was such that there were just about 7 or 8 people in the line, and almost everything, all operations are automated. In the domestic market, we would look at it where there's 50-50. The same line would have maybe 20-25 people operating, and so it's semi-automatic, it's not fully automatic. But today we are seeing that trend.
So Nitin, clearly there's no escaping technology, and I think your entire center here sort of underlines that premise.
True, Archana. And if I may say, from manufacturing to retail to engineering to new age business, I think they all represent, in some sense, people we serve.
Absolutely.
In the sense, so what is occupying their mind is also occupying ours. Faster, cheaper, better, if I were to say in a nutshell.
Nitin, I just wanted to come in at this point to ask you, you mentioned earlier when we were talking that you had nearly, over nearly 200, I think, clients who've come, visited and looked at your use cases. How would you split that? Would they be consumer-facing businesses? Were they B2B enterprises? Where is the interest of the adoption higher?
So actually, the consumer-facing businesses, I would say, is probably, it is more urgent, but I would say, the inquisitiveness comes from everywhere.
Okay.
Because even in manufacturing, and let me tell you, more than just weighing in on this, where my intrigue is, right? Is we always look at, what is the total factor productivity for the economy, right? And today we are at that inflection point where, you always wonder whether the ability to better do planning because you have the processor power, to better, let's say, do your logistics, because that's something where probably we still have some space to grow, right?
Yeah.
Can you do better logistics? And all of this technology will bridge that gap, right? The arbitrage that we have today from, elsewhere in the world, I think this truly will allow us to leapfrog.
Yeah.
This is insofar as our clients are concerned, but if I were to also wear my hat of the business of professional services, I can tell you we are also, working on wall-to-wall automation because clients want to cut the clutter on contracting. They want us to know them better. So, how we actually harness information in our, CRM databases, who we know, what we have done for them in the past, so that the storyline continues. The point solution stuff is, passé.
I just want to bring in a little bit of a divergent view to this. We've spoken, all the while of the increase in productivity and why technology, in a sense, is inevitable, right? Because it does all of this for you in terms of, takes you closer to your customer, helps improve productivity, makes you more efficient. I wanted to ask you in particular, is the wow factor that technology also can deliver, where do we stand on that in terms of new innovation, in terms of path-breaking products?
I think technology has a large role to play with that. I'll give you the example of what we do right now and how it differentiates thanks to technology from all the other businesses. We're an electric mass mobility business.
Absolutely.
So we have a brand called NewGo, and we move people, consumers, riders from one city to another, called intercity business. No, these are buses, right? And can I surprise you by telling you that we don't even collect a rupee of cash in a large business? Today, I have, out of the total fleet of 1,200 electric buses, 300 are branded NewGo, and 89% of it is through app, right? And 19-20% is on our own app, and 70% is through online travel agents like Redbus, Bangalore based. The other 11% is through travel agents, but that's also electronic. Can you imagine we started a business where we don't even know nobody touches cash.
We have two people here in the fashion business, so to speak. We can spend a little time talking about how technology is becoming a differentiator in your business. I thought we could begin with you in terms of how perhaps you are able to, sort of get a competitive advantage using technology. I know you're at the back end in terms of the sourcing part of it, and in your case in terms of sort of this fight with the e-com sector, the digital sector, which you yourself said is growing faster than although the retail portion still is 85%, like you said. So can we just talk a little bit about how it's changing fashion, so to speak, or changing the consumer end of it?
So we work in exports business. So most of our customers are in United States or Europe. And, we work from design, development, all the way to manufacturing. It's a fulfillment. So a lot of design that we do today, we share the silhouettes, the garments, etc. on 3D, right? So there are browseware, Optitex platforms on which we share. Of course, at the end of the day, a garment is bought by touching and feeling it. So, but a lot of initial exchanges have all gone on the system, right? So the design
Could
itself
just intervene
is good.
because a lot of the work that you have done over the last 4 years is seen as transformational and getting Gokuldas really into becoming a more robust business. How much did technology play a part in that turnaround, so to speak?
Technology has its place. You can't say that everything is technology. There was a lot of business aspects of business strategy, or some of the decisions we took also played a big role, right? So you see, technology in itself doesn't change your
It's an
business, right? It's an enabler. And you have to use it, you have to harness it and make it work for you. That's the only way to do it. And there are, things which happen across the value chain, across the industry, so you have to adopt it. And in many ways, you have to use that to even lead it, right? So you have to induce technology to work with your partners to make sure that you are more competitive, right?
Switching from fashion to, again to mobility, which is of course of huge interest given the state of India's metros and cities, right? We need more mobility solutions. How quickly do we think we are innovating? Where does India stand?
Today, if you see the percentage of EV scooter sales to the new scooter sales, it's a large percent. In three-wheeler auto rickshaws, I'm told that the EV sales are nearly 50%. Even in cars now, you will see on the road green number plates and a lot of hybrids. And for people like us, mass mobility itself now, thanks to the FAME subsidy and FAME program of the government, there'll be like at least 10-15,000 buses on the road. A lot can happen faster because what you said, if the prices come down and the parity happens, I think thanks to technology and green, this will be like a J curve. For that, India needs to bolster its own manufacturing capabilities. Like we don't have yet, while we are very good on software and IT, but we have still some catching up to do, like countries like China on automation or precision engineering, right? We are still a little behind. And we need a lot more, even logistics. Like if you want to become a great exporter, and you need manufacturing, but you need cost competitiveness, you need to cut down on logistics cost. You need to now, thanks to the government, we have fantastic highways, but we still need to have logistic parks, right? And when the price of the EV will come at par with diesel or ICE, I think the J curve will come and India will
That's
really move the needle.
escape velocity.
Oh, absolutely.
There are some interesting points which I want to bring, get you to tell us from Teal's perspective. One of the things being India's primacy perhaps in software and in services as against manufacturing, which is well known. From your perspective, how is that changing? Because all of the dreams that India now has ahead of her have to do with mass manufacturing, really being able to make in India at greater volume, greater speed. Where do you think we are on this journey?
Well, India's today manufacturing contribution to GDP is around 15%. Ambition is to take it to 25%. The trajectory is not going at the pace at which you would like. But the trajectory is moving in that direction, let's put it that way.
But the pace is not...
The pace could be a whole lot better. But but movement is in that direction. Compare China, China is like, it's declining. Actually, today it's around 26.5% of GDP, $80 trillion. We have $4 trillion. So there is a lot of,
catching up to do. Yeah.
between the two. And there are a lot of challenges. The fact of this manufacturing is a business of scale. If you have scale in the country, then a lot of things follow for manufacturing to make itself viable within the country. One of the reasons why it is viable in China, everything that you see comes from there. His industry, for example, is completely dominated by China. And the reason is that the entire supply chain of that industry resides in China. And you can build a viable supply chain, the entire ecosystem of that industry with it, because you have scale. And that scale has also been enabled to a large extent by the government, So there is multiple areas in which I guess we need to work in this country if you want manufacturing to go. It's absolutely essential manufacturing for us because we are a large population. You need jobs, which are more blue-collar jobs that we need to be creating. But the future of manufacturing is going to be a mix. It's not going to be all blue-collar. There's a lot of technology that has come into manufacturing. So it's going to be a good mix of both.
You need to have a network for real growth to happen. Where do you think India stands at this point? What are the challenges? What are the advantages, at least, that can be brought to bear?
So, I mean, some industries have done well. I mean, if you see, for example, if you take automotive, right? I mean, you take automotive, say in the Gurgaon, Manesar, I mean, that belt or Sanand or, around within Tamil Nadu, I mean, how the ecosystem has come about. So is it not there? I think there are some industries who've done better than others. But should people, because I love to think that there are people who think of ecosystems. I mean, we certainly, for example, our own persona is that we should solve for our clients more than what we can do alone. But yeah, does it happen in all industries? Answer is no. And I think it is very critical because we always look at talking of metrics like, what is your route to market? What is your route to source? The longer the route to market or source is, your logistics cost is higher. We are probably, as a country, if I get my bearings right, we are at about 12%. We should be probably close to 8%.
Okay.
Will ecosystems help in improving the metric? Absolutely. So yes, I think we do need, I can't undermine the importance of operating as ecosystems.
India is an alternative or a plus one to China. That is an opportunity everyone's talking of. But are we at a point where we can actually become market makers in your...
We should keep on striving for it, right? I mean, there's no escaping that. I mean, if you're just order takers, then you're working on a low margin back-end grade of, manufacturing value adder. So you have to take the lead in innovating. You have to take the lead in coming up with products so that you can, offer something new. So whether it is developments, whether it is, innovating on a new product category, etc., one has to do it. Otherwise, you won't stay relevant. There is somebody else who will be cheaper than you, some other country.
and this is a race to the bottom, right? They will take you down. So you have to stay ahead of the curve all the time.
What is currently on top of everyone's minds, right, is India's growth flagging. And is that showing up? Because you all are definitely the proxy for this, right? So urban spending is dropping. How is that affecting your business? How do you see this? Do you think tier 2, tier 3, sort of demand will sort of make up for that lag?
I think the last 3 to 4 quarters, initially we thought it was a temporary phenomenon, but it's playing out for a slightly longish period now. And all of us thought this quarter will be good because a lot of weddings and so much, there's festive and stuff like that. Festive was good, but the buoyancy that one expected, that's not happening. And clearly urban seems to be a concern. What we're also noticing, because we do a lot of focus groups and we research with consumers, what's also happening is there are some sectors where spend is increasing, there are some sectors where spend is not increasing. Like for example, experience certainly seems to be increasing. A lot of spends are going to leisure, a lot of spend is going on travel. Even in our stores, we see a lot of suitcases being sold, handbags being sold.
Experiences.
But
right?
apparel is not going at the same rate at which the other things are going. So we are seeing a pattern, so product consumption, there seems to be some pressure. I think there is some pressure in the technology sector, and we are in the metros, and tech is very big in the metros. It employs a lot of people. We are seeing pressure there, both in terms of employability as well as sort of increments and stuff like that. There seems to be some kind of pressure. Inflation is certainly not helping. We are not seeing inflation even coming down in the next 2 quarters. So certainly there seems to be some softness in demand, especially in urban, especially in the metro markets, right? And a slightly more lopsided growth across categories is what we are seeing.
Is that something that you see in the overseas markets as well?
Not seeing as much. So we are a little more leaning towards or biased towards the US market. And I'm not seeing demand letting up at the moment. We're seeing a fairly good demand traction from that side. So we don't face as much. But I can understand the Indian market is pretty soft at the moment.
Is soft at the moment, right? So I think to end, we'll finally go with the thing that dominates all our thinking right now, right? AI. So this is a question for all 5 of you, I think, in turn. So advantage or threat?
No, I don't see it as a threat at all.
Okay.
Not at all, right? I mean, AI is again another technology, that's all. So, and a form of AI has always been in existence. We've now branded it as artificial intelligence. And I think, that it will enable business, it will enable innovation, and we have to embrace it.
AI is a very big jargon, but if you sort of deconstruct it and use proper use cases, for example, fabric manufacturing, predictive analysis, forecasting that he was talking about, creating where do I open my next store? What should be the location? Is that location right or wrong? These kind of use case decisions, if we can use AI to get them, and we're using them in some form already, I think it's going to be a big enabler for us.
Quoting a recent study, I remember the World Economic Forum. It creates more jobs than it destroys. Which means I think there was one assessment which said it might put about 78 million jobs under threat, but it creates 170 million new jobs. So which means it creates more than it destroys. But what that means is the money will not be in the exact same place.
Yeah.
So which means people will have to get skilled in terms of that. And just to say it more pervasively, I think of AI like salt, right? If it's not there, you will miss it. If it is there, it is par for the course.
That's an interesting one.
But I agree with Nitin. See, technologies will come. Today it's AI. It used to be quantum computing. It used to be internet. I think you can't stop that. Technology is coming. If you stay ahead of it, I think you don't have to fear it.
So will AI help us catch up and maybe race ahead of China?
Well, there is the physical side of the world. Anyway, you have to build stuff, right? So I agree that AI is going to be an enabler.
Okay.
The early adoption of AI. Even my visits to China, they were asking us, what are you doing with AI? So they are thinking about it. So if you don't think about it, naturally going to be falling behind. So, but I also believe that AI is definitely going to be an enabler. You don't do it, somebody is going to disrupt. So it's better to stay ahead of the curve.
On that optimistic note, I think thank you so much for this really interesting conversation. And let's just hope that all of this will enable India to reach her ambitions.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.